Hello, Barendipitous here. Welcome to another Legend Lore chat. This time we're talking about Cassidy, who, like Bodvar, also released on April 30th, 2014, and this video is releasing on April 30th, 2024. So happy 10th birthday, Cassidy! Happy 10th anniversary of your release, according to brawlhalla.wiki.gg. Very cool, very awesome. Let's get right into it, shall we? So, as usual, we're going to go into Meet the Legends, and we're going to go over to Cassidy's page and the lore. Here we go. Cassidy, the Marshal of the Old West. Reward, $5,000 for the capture, dead or alive, of ex-U.S. Marshal Cassidy Miller, age 25, 5 feet 8 inches, brown hair and eyes, wanted for dereliction of duty, harboring a fugitive slave, aiding a known criminal, and attempted murder. Known companions include a giant cougar, a 20-foot lumberjack, and a Cherokee ghost. Armed and extremely dangerous. Poster, Nebraska Territory, 1853. You just going to stand behind me looking all fired stupid, or are you going to draw? Marshal Cassidy. As the story goes, when 15-year-old Cassidy Miller captured Wild Zeb and his gang, Zeb insisted his gun jammed and the sun was in his eyes. But outlaws soon changed their tune, and just 5 years later, Bloody Cal Johnson bragged from prison that Utah had been forced to call in the great Marshal Cassidy just to bring him down. In her long career, Cassidy's insistence on justice for all earned her many unlikely friends, including the meanest horse in the West, a giant cougar named Boots. But it also put her on the wrong side of the law when she joined the Underground Railroad and became a wanted fugitive herself. Later, Cassidy returned to law enforcement in dramatic style when President Lincoln begged her to track down the Blood Fang Rangers, a company of Confederate vampires. To Cassidy, Valhalla is like any other frontier boomtown in need of her rough brand of justice. She's always on the lookout for suspicious types and reckons that trouble's brewing. So, very cool, very classic cowgirl kind of thing. Let's get into some ranked games with Cassidy here. I'll start with just her normal classic skin to start out with. So yeah, Cassidy Miller is her full name, or if you want to include her, like one of her her government job title, U.S. Marshal Cassidy Miller. And but yeah, so this is probably one of the very few legends where we actually can pinpoint a specific like couple of years for like when she was born. If she was 25 in 1853, then that would mean that she was probably born in 1827 or 1828. Definitely, sort of like a time of Wild West, like Civil War stuff would be happening in I think a few decades or whatever, like 1850s if I remember correctly. I'm not a like historian I'm not necessarily an expert on history by any means, but yeah, so 1800s, definitely pioneers, Wild West, Civil War, and all the good and bad that happened with all of that, right? Connections. Yes, connections that Cassidy has with other legends. Not as many as Bodvar, but there's some fun ones here. So first of all, Cassidy is the other legend, along with Bodvar, to be specifically mentioned to have witnessed Orion's crash into the fields of Folkvanger in a fiery comet. So it said that Bodvar and Cassidy saw Orion crash into Folkvanger. I think the main reason the two of them are mentioned is the fact that Bodvar and Cassidy, as far as legends released in the game, there's Bodvar first, then Cassidy, and then Orion after that. So they were the main ones, along with Lord Vrax as well, and maybe a couple others. I don't know, but yeah. So there's that. Let's see. Oh yeah, so when Ragnir entered the grand tournament, when Ragnir the dragon, right? Ragnir had a full 90-foot long dragon form, but we mostly only see him in his normal humanoid form. And Cassidy is one of the people who discussed Ragnir's inclusion in the grand tournament. It was Cassidy, Ada, and Jala. It was kind of like, how is this fair? He's like a full dragon. What's going on here? Things are really slipping. But yeah. Also, Cassidy has a fun connection with Lin Fei. So Lin Fei is connected to many other legends because Lin Fei is the teacher. She's the one who taught several legends some of their signature moves. So not the hammer down. Yeah. Oops. Okay, so I need to grab a hammer to show this. But so the tornado move, basically, if I can grab a hammer, this mirage will allow me to do that. Here we go. Okay, come on. This one right here, that tornado move. Lin Fei taught Cassidy that tornado move, so you can blame Lin Fei for that. I think that's pretty cool. And then, oh yeah, so Reno has so you can kind of like Reno has some of that sort of like has kind of a space cowboy space cowboy vibe to him, right? Reno has a robot companion named Orbot. That's Reno's orb. And Cassidy sometimes hangs out with Orbot. So there's that too. That's fun. Those are all the connections, really. So yeah, I did when I did a really deep dive into various historical well, hold on, let me see, which skin do I want to do? There's Dawn Walker Cassidy, High Noon Cassidy. This one looks like she has like a sheriff or a marshal badge or something. This one's fun. Okay, so when I looked into the Wild West era, it was actually more it's generally considered to be the late 1800s, so 1865 to 1900. Before that time, the Western U.S. was largely unsettled. It was kind of the early 1800s is more like Lewis and Clark and exploration and kind of stuff, and the whole Manifest Destiny and pioneers and all that stuff that didn't happen until a bit later. Abraham Lincoln was mentioned in Cassidy's lore there. If I'm not mistaken, according to my notes here, Abraham Lincoln's presidency was 1861 to 1865. So Cassidy would have been about 35 years old while Abraham Lincoln was president, assuming that, again, I'm assuming normal world history unless proven otherwise. And it's fun. It's fun though to imagine that there were vampires in the South at that time, right? The Blood Fang Rangers. So that's cool. That's fun. And then Cassidy went against them. Another cool thing. So the Underground Railroad, right? Of course, if you know your American history, which if you went to school in America, you probably have heard of the Underground Railroad. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's basically the system that was used to help free slaves, to help get them to a safe space to seek refuge where slavery was banned, outlawed and stuff. And Cassidy was apparently a part of that in the Brawlhalla version of Earth, right? And of course, back in the day in the 1800s, there were definitely some parts of the U.S. that would consider Cassidy a criminal for doing things like that. Some would not have, of course. Some would see her as a hero, but then others would see her as a fugitive, just like the other people who would have used the Underground Railroad, right? So, but yeah, so Cassidy very much is a kind of a chaotic good kind of character. She did law enforcement, but she also she has an inner sense of justice, and if the law goes against that, then she's going to go against her inner sense of justice and order and things like that. Her rough brand of justice, as the lore says. So very fun character, I think. One thing I definitely want to do, this is not something I really talked about in the introduction to this series, but I'll just say it now. One thing I really hope that this series accomplishes is to kind of help more people appreciate Brawlhalla lore. There really is more depth, and there's more depth to it if you really sort of think about it and become nerdy about it like me, which maybe you don't want to do that. But I hope, if nothing else, that these Legend lore chats can help more people to appreciate why I'm such a nerd about it. people often ask why I like Brawlhalla lore so much, and I usually talk about things like, it's just lots of fun. There's not very many people. There's not very many lore masters in the Brawlhalla community, or lore nerds in the Brawlhalla community compared to like Legend of Zelda or SCP or things like that. But it's also it's just like it's there's a lot. It's Brawlhalla lore is very rewarding. There's a if you look into it, like the developers, even though there's not a lot to read, the connections and the historical context is there. Like it's very clear that the developers do their research with every single legend. They do some research into Norse mythology for Bodvar's lore. They did some research into, like Wild West and cowgirl stuff in for Cassidy's lore, and I think that's fantastic. And obviously, that's not to say that other fighting games don't do the same thing, but I haven't really. I mean, I've heard that like things like Tekken and like Mortal Kombat definitely has lore and things like that, but I haven't really seen it done in any other fighting game in the same way that Brawlhalla has done it. It's very approachable. It's a very approachable and easy lore, like some lore and world to get into. But if you're into it deep, you're rewarded for it. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to get at. It's fun if you want to read the lore casually, but if you want to get in deep into the lore, you are also rewarded for it. Like it's to me, in my opinion, it's satisfying to just about everybody. I think I'll do one more match with Cassidy. I'll do this cool one. I mean, I do have other crossovers and stuff, but I'm not interested in SpongeBob lore, Rayman lore, things like that. But yeah, I like this outfit for Cassidy. I think it's pretty cool. Dawn Walker, yeah, Dawn Walker Cassidy. I also like the hammer that comes with this one. It's a pretty cool hammer. This right here, like that looks like a very dangerous hammer. There's a little bit of sort of like goth edge to this, which I find really fun. But yeah. Well, also when it comes to like various legends and their lore, obviously there are some legends that have more like significant and maybe obviously interesting lore than others, like Loki and Red Raptor, and have like their lore is obviously like instantly very interesting. If you think about like Terminus and Darkheart and things like that, right? But or if you're into like Batavia stuff, then Volkov or Diana or Mordex and all that kind of stuff, right? Or Fangwild with Ember and Dusk and Ragnir and Arcadia. But, and that's really cool. I love that. But also, Cassidy is, as well as Bodvar, kind of like among those legends that, there aren't really any other legends that are part of Cassidy's world necessarily, at least not right now, anyway. That could, of course, change. Some of that has changed in the past, like, for example, Thatch Mako was connected to Thatch when Mako was released, which is cool. But yeah, and again, I hope these legend lore chats kind of show why each individual character is cool and fun. Like what's cool about the lore of what's cool about Cassidy's lore? Why should anyone care about that, right? Another question I get a lot is which legend's lore is my favorite? And that's hard for me because, again, I can spend, as you can see with this video series, I can easily spend like, 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes just straight talking about any Legends lore at all. Their connections, historical context that I happen to be, and mythological context that I happen to be aware of, and things like that. So that's why it's hard for me to pick like a favorite lore, really. Obviously, some legends are more connected to others, like I said. But I could tell you something cool about every single legend, and that's another aspect of Brawlhalla lore that I just love. So, anyway, there you go. And now I'm going to attempt to win this match. Here, I have not used Cassidy's new signature. I think it's the hammer down sig. Yep, there it is. Yep, because it used to be that like there were two versions of the tornado, for down sig and side sig with the hammer. But then like earlier this year, the developers changed the signature so that it had that. And so Kathy's using her lasso more, which is awesome. It's not just the blaster's neutral sig, it's also the hammer down sig. And so now there's two versions of the hammer side sig, the full tornado and like the partial tornado, I guess. All right. I like playing as Yumiko a lot. I enjoy bow and hammer. I'm not as great with blasters. I find blasters kind of fun, but I'm not great. I'm not as great with blasters as I am with hammer. Nice. Oof. Nice. Okay. I'll probably still lose, but at least I got 2 stocks off of them. Oh gosh, still got hit by those things. Oh, they want to do a certain combo so bad. Oh nope. Yep, there it is. I guess there could have been several different versions of that combo, but anyway, there you go. GG, well played, excellent. All right, so there you go. That's all I've got to say about Cassidy. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, all the best.